Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha. Narayanam Gurum Vande Sharanyam Bhakta Bandhavam Gaudamanubhishtam Purnam Radhadasyam Pradayakam Rupanugacharya Varyam Rupa Manjari Preshtakam Patita Pavana Karunyam Yugacharya Narayanam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tuise Namaha. Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekara Izmera Hasra Murali Manohara Radhikara Sikamam Kripanide Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Brindai Tulasi Devyai Priyai Keshava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavatyai Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So first of all I begin offering my most humble obeisances to the dust of the lotus feet of Paramaradatam Shri Guru Pada Padma Nitrila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajaka Charya Shtotara Sata Sisrimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudeva, and to my most worshipable Shiksha and Sannyasa Guru Nitrila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Shtotara Sata Sisrimad Shila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to all Shri Rupanva Gauriya Guru Varga, to all Tridandi Sannyasis, Brahmacharis, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and to all the assembled devotees here today, my most respectful obeisances. So by the causeless mercy of Srila Gurudeva and all Mahabhagavatas Acharyas, we are able to assemble here one more time. Text 7. Anarthas or misfortune are of four kinds. This is described in the Amanaya Sutra Vyakya. The anarthas of the living entities enchanted by the illusory energy are of four kinds. 1. Illusion about one's real identity, Swarupa Brahma. 2. Hankering for what is temporary, Asatrishna. 3. Offenses, Aparad. And 4. Weakness of heart, Hridaya Durbalya. They bind the living entity to the material world and entangle him in its miseries. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva, Bhajana Rahasya. The living entities, seized by Maya and derailed from pure Dharma, wander in this material existence, falsely thinking they are its enjoyers. Four anarthas are noticed in these living entities: Swarup Brahma, Asatrishna, Aparad, and Hridaya Durbalya. Anarthas are the collection of that which has no purpose. Means anartha. Artha means the purpose, your goal. Then anartha means without purpose. So the jiva's only purpose is service to Krishna. But in this material existence, he is engaged in Maya's service. Hence, this is an anartha. Now Gurudev is explaining Swarup Brahma. This word Brahm, it's not the same of Brahma. Okay, it's different. This Brahm called illusion. And the age is before the R. So it's BHRAM. And the Brahm as God, Brahma. This is, the age is after. So this is called Brahm. Swarup Brahm. So the pure living entity is a tiny transcendental particle and the eternal servant of Shri Krishna. Just as the conditioned living entity experiences form, taste, smell, touch, etc. through his material senses, the pure living entity experiences transcendental form, taste, and so forth through his transcendental senses. Forgetting that I am an infinitesimal particle of spiritual consciousness and Krishna's servant, the jiva becomes conditioned and wanders about in this material existence. The primary anartha of the living entity is his failure to realize his swarupa, his true nature. So Swarup Brahm means the illusion about your spiritual identity. You don't know that you are the servant of Krishna. Therefore, you think you are the servant of Maya. Then second is Asat Trishna. To consider the material body to be me, to consider perishable objects in relation to the body to be mine, and to desire happiness from perishable objects. It is called Asat Trishna. Trishna means thirst, and Asat means what is perishable. So when you hanker, when you are thirsty for the temporary objects of this world and the temporary identification of the self, this is called Asat Trishna. Then Aparadha. Apagata Radho Yasmad iti Aparadha. Radha means Radh, not Radha. Radh means affection, priti, love. So that action which causes affection to vanish is called Aparadha. Aparadha at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and at the lotus feet of his devotees decreases priti or love. One should avoid the 10 nama aparadhas, the 32 seva aparadhas, and all the dhamma aparadhas. So if you commit aparadha, you are going to lose your love for Hari Guru and Vaishnavas. And gradually, by and by, you are going to give up the practice. The next one is Hridaya Durbalya. When the heart experiences illusion and distress upon the attainment or loss of that which is perishable, it is called Hridaya Durbalya, or weakness of heart. Hridaya means heart, Durbalya means weakness. This anartha appears naturally in the living entity due to ignorance, and it vanishes by the cultivation of Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees. So text 8. Swarup Brahm is of 4 types, as stated in the Amnaya Sutra Vyakhya. The conditioned living entity is subject to 4 kinds of Brahm, or illusion. First, Jiva Swarupa Brahm. Second, Paratattva Brahm. 3, Sadhya Sadhana Tattva Brahm. And 4, Bhajana Virodhi Vishai Brahm. So all the 4 anarthas that we described before, each one of them are going to be divided in more 4 types. So the first one, the Swarup Brahm, is divided into 4 parts. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudev Bhajana Rahasya Vritti. Jiva Swarupa Brahm, the living entity cannot realize his own transcendental nature due to ignorance of it. He has forgotten his real Swarupa, that he is the servant of Shri Krishna, because he thinks himself to be the enjoyer. Now, Paratattva Brahm. Who is Paratattva? The absolute truth. Not knowing this, the living entity becomes illusioned. Sometimes he worships Shiva, sometimes Brahma, and sometimes another demigod or goddess. The inability to correctly ascertain the absolute truth is called Paratattva Brahm. So those who don't know who is God himself, they worship many demigods. Sometimes they also worship God, but they're not sure who is the Supreme Lord. Then Sadhya Sadhana Brahm. According to the scriptures, Krishna Prem is the only goal, Sadhya, and Bhakti the only practice, Sadhana. The conditioned living entity, however, is unable to decide which is his goal among sense enjoyment, liberation, and Krishna Prem, and which is his practice among karma, jnana, and bhakti. This is Sadhya Sadhana Brahm, illusion about the goal and the process to attain it. If one cannot ascertain the goal, it is not possible to determine the practice, and without the practice, it's not possible to attain the goal. It is only by the mercy of Vaishnavas that one can obtain the fortune to understand that bhakti is the only auspicious spiritual practice, and prema is the only aim and object. Prema is of 2 kinds, Aishwarya Para, full of opulence, and Madhurya Para, full of sweetness. The acharyas have determined that the topmost goal is sweet, loving service to Sri Radha Krishna under the guidance of the Braja Gopis, which means Madhurya Para. The next one is Bhajana Virodhi Vishai Brahm. Doctrines other than Vaishnavism oppose bhajan and cause bewilderment. Virodhi Brahm. This especially applies to impersonalism, Mayavada, which contaminates the heart and thus renders the living entity unable to discriminate. So it means that some people, they are bewildered and they think that you no need to worship the supreme truth, no need to worship God. You have only to meditate, you have only to contemplate. So this is the doubt about how to perform bhajan. So this is called Bhajana Virodhi Vishai Brahm. Now text 9. Asat Trishna is of 4 kinds, as described in Namnaya Sutra Vyakya. The 4 types of Asat Trishna are as follows. Desire for objects of this material world, desire for heavenly pleasures, like those of Swarga, desire for mystic powers, and desire for liberation. So now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva Bhajana Rahasya Vritti. The desire to obtain that which is unrelated to Shri Krishna is known as Asat Trishna. This desire is of 4 kinds. Desire for worldly material objects and the various endeavor to obtain them. In Srimad Bhagavatam 11:3-18 states, Karmani arabhamanam dukkha hatyai sukhayacha. The conditioned living entity endeavors to obtain pleasure for the senses, but receives only misery. Then second, desire to obtain the pleasures of the heavenly planets and the worship of various demigods and demigoddesses. Third, desire to obtain mystic powers in order to bewilder the people with material wonders and thereby attain wealth, worship, prestige, and so forth. Then human beings are attracted to Ashtanga Yoga and to mystic powers like Anima and Lagma. And 4, desire for liberation. These 4 desires are all opposed to bhajan, and therefore devotees of Shri Bhagavan never accept them. Now text 10. Aparad is of 4 kinds, as mentioned in the Aminaya Sutra Vyakya. The 4 kinds of aparad are as follows. Offenses to Krishna's name, Namaparad. Offenses to Krishna's deity form, Seva Aparad. Offenses to that which belongs to Krishna, or in other words, to Giriraj Govardhan, Ganga, Yamuna, Vrindavan Dham, or the lotus feet of the devotees. And 4, offenses to other living entities, who are all infinitesimal particles and spirit belonging to Krishna. So here Gurudev did not give any commentary because this is a very known thing. You can just follow the list of all the aparads to understand. Text 11. Hridaya Durbhalya is also of 4 kinds, as stated in Namnaya Sutra Vyakya. Scholars consider Hridaya Durbhalya to be of 4 types. First, attachment to worthless objects, that is, objects unrelated to Krishna. Second, hypocrisy and deceit, uttinati. Third, envy upon seeing the prosperity of others. And 4, desire for prestige and position, pratishtha. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva Bhajana Rahasya Vritti. Hridaya Durbhalya gives birth to 6 enemies: lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and envy. And their waves result in distress, bewilderment, hunger, thirst, old age, and death. The creeper of devotion cannot grow as long as one does not give up these anarthas. Text 12. All anarthas are nullified by Nama Sankirtan. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.14 states, Apanna samsmriting ghoram yam nama vishasukrinam tata sadyo vimuchyata yad viveti swayam bhayam. If a living entity who is caught in the whirlpool of material existence even once chants the name of Krishna, he can be freed immediately. Even fear personified trembles upon hearing the name of Shri Bhagavan. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva Bhajana Rahasya Vritti. The far-sighted sages, reflecting on the terrible distress of the living entities in the frightful age of Kali, asked Sutta Goswami Pada, O Somya, how can the conditioned living entities who are attached to material existence become liberated? Then Sutta Goswami replied, association with devotees of Sri Bhagavan is the only means. Bathing the Ganga destroys sins, but all sins are nullified solely by having darshan of a devotee who is dedicated to the holy name. The direct result of associating with the Supreme Lord's devotees and serving them is the attainment of prema. If a living entity merely utters the holy name at the time of death, Namaprabhu will bestow prema upon him. So this verse is very, very important. There is a very, very important meaning in this. So this verse especially glorifies Sadhu Sangha, the association of the devotees of Krishna. So if you associate with the devotees and you chant Krishna Nam, then you can achieve perfection very easily. In Chaitanya Charitamrita he said, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Nama ei matra chai, sansara janita hona kono vastu nai. I just want two things in my life, Sadhu Sangha and Krishna Nama. And by that what will happen? Sansara janita ora kono vastu nai. So in this whole existence, there is nothing more important than these two things, Sadhu Sangha and Krishna Nama. So we should always endeavor to chant the holy names in the association of a devotee of Krishna. Because under the guidance of a pure devotee, then we can really chant Shuddhanam one day. Now text 13. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37 states, Bhayam vitya viniveshita syadi saddapetasa viprayosmriti tam mayatu buddha bhajatam bhakti ekasham guru devatatma. The living entity who is averse to Sri Bhagavan forgets his own constitutional nature because of his association with Maya. Due to this forgetfulness, he becomes absorbed in the conception that he is the material body and thus thinks, I am a demigod, I am a human being. In this state of bodily identification, he fears old age, disease, and so forth. Therefore, those who know the truth should consider their own Guru as Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. In other words, they should see him as their master, who is not different from Bhagavan and who is very dear to him. Through exclusive devotion, they should perform one-pointed worship of that Ishvara. It means their Guru. So here this shloka says Guru Devatatma. Guru Devatatma means that we should make Guru our life and soul. So in this way, Guru is also our God, in the sense that he is bringing the mercy of Krishna to us. He is like God, but not God himself. So now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva, Bhajana Rahasya. When the living entities are averse to the Supreme Lord, they become absorbed in Maya and thus become materially conditioned. Maya Devi, through her two functions of avaranatmika and vikshapatmika, makes the living entities wander in the prison-like material existence, suffering its torment by thinking they are the experiencers of happiness and distress. So, why we think that we are the experiencers of happiness and distress? Because we are identified with the false ego, with the body. And the body and the false ego experience happiness and distress, but not the soul. So a person who is resolute takes shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide Guru and is thus able to cross over this material existence. By accepting the guidance of a Guru who has realized Sri Bhagavan and by being absorbed in intimate service, the Shramba Seva to him, one attains the mercy of the Supreme Lord and material identification goes far away. One will attain knowledge of one's own Swarupa, Bhagavan Swarupa, and the Swarupa of the illusory energy by understanding the spiritual master to be near and dear like his own soul and by serving him. So by the Guru's mercy, the living entity will ultimately be engaged in the eternal service in Sri Bhagavan's abode. Now text 14. The characteristics of Bhakti Yoga are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-12. After hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, a faithful person automatically acquires Bhakti endowed with knowledge and renunciation. By such Bhakti, he apprehends the Supreme Lord Swarupa in his heart and he realizes his relationship with him. Thereupon he enters service to the Lord. When the relationship between the Lord and the living entity is established, Bhakti Yoga for Bhagavan Sri Vasudeva appears. So here in this shloka, the fruits of performing bhakti is described. Janayatiya shuvaregam gyanam chayadahaitukam. So by practicing bhakti, two things will happen. One is jnana and the other is vairagya. So first, the renunciation must happen after you become attached to Krishna. Then you can become detached from the material things. And then you gain the real knowledge. What is the meaning of real knowledge? This is called the knowledge of your relationship with Bhagavan. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva, Bhajana, Rahasya. Sadhana of the non-dual absolute truth, Advaya Jnana Paratattva, is of three kinds: Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti. The Jnana is realized Bhagavan as Brahma on the strength of their cultivation of knowledge. They see Tat Padartha, Bhagavan, within their souls. They see their own souls in Ishvara, and they also see Tam Padartha, all living entities in him. The yogis realize the non-dual object as Paramatma, the Super Soul. All attempts made by the living entities to attain renunciation through the cultivation of dry knowledge are useless. Renunciation is an inherent result of bhakti and is easily attained through the practice of bhakti yoga. The bhakti sadhaka relishes the direct sweetness of the non-dual object on the strength of his devotion. The process of bhakti is to hear Krishna Katha from the lotus mouth of the spiritual master. Knowledge endowed with a sense of one's relationship with Shri Krishna appears through the process of bhakti by the means of hearing and chanting. The acharyas have ascertained that the mood of service appears by hearing from authorities. The personalists do not follow this path of hearing, which is the descending path, avarohavada. Rather, they endeavor to take shelter of the doctrine of the ascending path, arohavada. Their attempts are compared to trying to reach the sky by climbing on falling raindrops. So when the living entity is absorbed in the service to the object of bhajan and not in any other object, pure bhakti and proper renunciation, yukta vairagya, will arise. So it's very important to understand what is this avarohavada and arohavada. You can realize the ultimate absolute truth only if it reveals itself to you. It means avarohavada, the descending. Knowledge must be descending from top. But the yogis and mayavadis, they try to go from their position to access the absolute truth. So this is called arohavada. They can realize something, but they cannot realize everything. They can come maximum to Paramatma or to Brahma, but they cannot reach Bhagavan. Now text 15. The fourth verse of the Chatushloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2.9.36 states, Itavad eva jigyasam tattva jigyasunatmana amvaya vyaktirekabhyam yasyat sarvatra sarvada. One who is inquisitive to know the true nature of the self, Atma Tattva, inquires through direct, anvaya, and indirect, vyaktireka, means of deliberation about that object, which is fully eternal. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva, Bhajana Rahasya. After Brahma took birth, he asked Sri Bhagavan 4 questions, which the Supreme Lord answered through the Chatushloki. These 4 verses are famous as Chatushloki Bhagavatam because they are the seed of Srimad Bhagavatam. They contain the very essence of the Vedas, Vedanta, and all other Vedic scriptures. Philosophical knowledge of Sri Bhagavan, his eternal form, his qualities, pastimes, are all described in the first of these verses in the form of aphorisms, sutras. In the second verse, Maya Tattva, which is separate from Bhagavan's eternal form, is discussed, as is the material world, Jara Jagat. The Sambandha Jnana found in these 2 verses should be understood. The third verse describes the existence of Sri Bhagavan's eternal Swarupa, separate from his relationship of inconceivable difference and non-difference, Achincha Bedabed, with the living entities and the matter. It also describes how the living entities, by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, attain the treasure of the most elevated prema. This text 15 is the 4th verse of Chatushloki Bhagavat, and it describes sadhana bhakti, the means for obtaining the above-mentioned supreme goal. Direct following, or anvaya, means to accept the rules of sadhana bhakti with a favorable mood. The word vyatireka is used in regard to avoiding those actions that are unfavorable and that cause obstacles in obtaining the desired goal. The path of sadhana is known as abhideya, the process. In other words, that instruction which is obtained from the scriptures through direct interpretation, abhidavriti, is known as abhideya. This is described in this text. Sadhana bhakti, which is none other than abhideya, is not dependent on time, place, performer, or circumstance. The duty of all living entities is to perform sadhana bhakti in all places, at all times and under all circumstances. The sadhaka should inquire and hear from the spiritual master about sadhana bhakti. In this text, the confidential meaning of direct and indirect indicates union, samyoga, and separation, vipralamba, found in Shri Krishna's amorous pastimes, Sringara Rasa, with his most beloved Braja Sundaris. And we can also find the same meaning in the first verse of Bhagavatam, Janmadya Sanjatoan Vayai Tarata. Is also this direct and indirect meaning is there, which can also refer to meeting and separation in Krishna's pastimes. So, to deceive the conditioned living entities, all these priceless jewels are kept well protected in a box that the Jnanis and the Aishwarya Bhaktas are unable to open. That guru who is adept at relishing the ras of Braja displays its contents only to his qualified disciples. So, Braja Bhakti, it is very confidential, because this is the intimacy of Krishna. And you cannot enter in Krishna's intimacy without having qualification for that. Just like you cannot also enter Gurudev's intimacy if you are not qualified for that. Not everyone can be the personal servant of Gurudev. So in the same way, Krishna, he protects this Braja Bhakti, covering with so many different knowledges in the scriptures. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, he explains so many yogas. And in the middle, he is giving Bhakti Yoga. So, in this way, if we are on the guidance of a Rasik Bhakta, then he can open up for us all these treasure boxes and give us this very secret knowledge of Braja Bhakti. So then, as the first verse we read today is saying that you must chant Krishna Nam in the association of the pure devotee. It means when Gurudev reveals to us all this secret knowledge, when we chant Harinam, we are able to relish that secret knowledge. So just now we are studying the Bhajana Rahasya. What's the meaning of Bhajana Rahasya? The secrets of Bhajan. So how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Gurudev, they are opening these boxes and giving us the secrets of Bhakti. And they are giving us all the udipans, the stimulus for us. When we chant Harinam, we can remember all of this and have some realization. So in this way, we just have to continue studying, hearing, and chanting. Then automatically everything will manifest. Text 16. The 6 urges unfavorable to bhakti and the anarthas related to them, means Hriday Durbalya, Asat Trishna, and Aparad, are explained in the first verse of Shri Upadeshamrita. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam. Jiva vegam udara pashta vegam, etam vegam jo vishaheta dhira, sarvam apimam pritivim sashishat. A wise and self-composed person who can tolerate the impetus to speak, the agitation of the mind, the onset of anger, the vehemence of the tongue, the urge of the belly, and the agitation of the genitals, can instruct the whole world. In other words, all persons may become disciples of such a self-controlled person. Now the commentary of the Gurudeva, Bhajana Rahasya Vritti. In this text, Srila Rupa Goswami has given the instruction to reject that which is unfavorable to bhakti. The acceptance of that which is favorable and rejection of what which is unfavorable are not direct limbs of pure bhakti. Rather, they are aspects of Shraddha that are characterized by surrender, Sharanagati, and that bestow eligibility for bhakti. So a person who is capable of tolerating the 6 urges mentioned in this verse can instruct the whole world. So what Gurudev is saying here is that the activities of controlling the senses, controlling the speech, controlling the anger, all these things, they are not directly bhakti, but they are actually necessary for us to practice bhakti properly. The purport of this text is that lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and envy always appear in the mind and agitate the living entities. These 6 enemies dwell there due to living entities' weakness of heart, hriday durvalya. 3 kinds of urges are seen in the living entity attached to enjoyment of material objects in this worldly existence. The impetus to speak, agitation of the mind, and agitation of the body. It is very difficult for a person who has fallen into the strong current of these 3 urges to be rescued. The impetus to speak, vakya vega, refers to talks that are unfavorable to bhakti and to the use of words that cause distress to others. So, vakya vegam does not mean that everyone should be silent, but you should always speak harikatha and always speak things which are favorable to everyone, good for everyone. However, one should not consider talk that is useful in the service of the Supreme Lord to be vakya vega. Rather, one should consider such talk to be the result of disciplining the impetus to speak. I can also say that this is also related to lolyam, which is the greed for defending one's own useless opinions, which is also mentioned in the Padeshamrita. So, agitation of the mind is born from the various desires of the heart. If these desires are not fulfilled, anger arises. The 3 mental urges of speech, the mind and anger, will be pacified only by remembering Shri Krishna's pastimes. So, the bodily urges are also of 3 types: the vehemence of the tongue, the urge of the belly, and the agitation of the genitals. Vehemence of the tongue appears when the desire to enjoy any of the 6 distinct tastes impels one to eat prohibited foods and to take intoxicants. A bhakti sadhaka must never indulge in these things. One should carefully keep the urge of the tongue at bay by taking the remnants of the Supreme Lord and the devotees, the Mahaprasad. I know sometimes devotees go to their relative's house and then mother or grandmother, they make a very nice cake with eggs and they cannot control their senses. They want to eat the delicious cake and they eat eggs, so they break the principles. And then if you say anything, they reply, it's just a little bit of egg. What is the meaning? What is the matter? No problem. Does not cause any harm. Well, many small problems become a big problem later on. So the urge of the belly will also be pacified by taking Bhagavat Prasadam as needed, by regularly observing Ekadashi and by serving Shri Krishna. It is possible to fall into varieties of bad behavior and bad association just to satisfy the desires of the tongue. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antalila 6:227 states, Jivara lala se jaiti utidhai, Shishnudhara parayana Krishna nahi pai. One who runs here and there trying to satisfy his tongue and who is always devoted to the desires of the genitals and belly cannot attain Krishna. Also in Antalila 6:236 says, Bhalo na khaibe ar bhalo na poribe. Do not eat delicious food and do not dress opulently. These instructions given to Raghunath Das Goswami. Bhalo na khaibe ar bhalo na poribe. Gramya varta na kohibe, gramya katha na shunibe. Don't speak also mundane talks, don't hear mundane talks, and all these things. And always be absorbed in Radha Krishna's seva by mind in Vrindavan. So many troubles come from overeating. A person who eats too much becomes a servant of his agitated genitals. In other words, he becomes devoid of character. The agitation of the genitals or the desire to meet with the opposite sex drags the mind towards material sense objects and therefore renders one incapable of cultivating pure bhakti. So we see one mistake leads to other mistake. It goes like that, like in a roller coaster. So Srila Rupa Goswami composed this verse to make the heart of the person who is endeavoring to perform bhajan inclined towards the path of bhakti. It is not that the endeavor to escape these 6 urges is itself the practice of bhakti. Rather, this endeavor is the path to attain the qualification to enter the realm of bhakti. When bhakti appears, these 6 urges automatically become pacified on their own accord. This is because bhakti is a self-manifesting function of the Supreme Lord's Swarupa Shakti. So, actually, what we can conclude from this is that although controlling the senses is not bhakti, it is favorable to bhakti. But the only way to control your senses is by practicing bhakti. So, if you want to control your senses, you have to do bhakti. There is no way to control your senses without performing bhakti, thinking that after controlling my senses, I'm going to do bhakti. No, it's not possible. So my advice to all who are facing some difficulties in controlling the senses is don't focus on that. Focus in try to practice more and perform more bhakti. By that, your senses can be controlled. Some people think, I cannot control my senses, therefore I cannot do bhakti. No, you have to do more bhakti even. And then gradually you are going to be able to control your senses. Now text 17. The 6 impediments to bhakti are described in the 2nd verse of the Shri Upadeshamrita. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lolyancha sadbhir bhaktir vinashati. The following 6 kinds of faults destroy bhakti. First, eating too much or collecting more than necessary. Second, endeavoring for that which is opposed to bhakti. Third, engaging in useless mundane talk. 4, failing to adopt essential rules and regulations, or fanatically adhering to the rules and regulations. 6, taking bad association. And 6, being greedy or restless in the mind to adopt worthless opinions. Now the commentary of Srila Gurudeva, Bhajana Rahasya. The 6 impediments to bhakti are Atyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Niyamagraha, Janasanga, and Lolya. Atyahara is formed by the words Ati, meaning too much or excessively, and Ahar means to grasp or consume for one's own enjoyment. Ahara means also in common sense eating. So it means either excessive enjoyment of any sense object or collecting more than necessary. So sometimes devotees, they collect a lot of donations, for example, some foodstuffs, and they cannot use, and that goes rotten. So this is bad. And that is what is saying here. Don't collect more than necessary. So while renunciants are forbidden to accumulate objects, householder Vaishnavas may collect and save what is necessary to maintain their life. However, over-accumulating is atyahara. It is not proper for those desiring to perform bhajan to accumulate like materialists. Prayasa is the endeavor to enjoy material objects or the engagement in activities opposed to devotion. Prajalpa means to spend time uselessly gossiping about mundane things. And Niyamagraha means enthusiastic adherence to those rules that yield the lowest results, such as attaining the heavenly planets, while abandoning the endeavor to serve Sri Bhagavan, which is the topmost attainment. It also refers to indifference to the rules and regulations that nourish bhakti. It means that Niyamagraha has 2 meanings. Niyama agraha and Niyama graha. Means following fanatically the rules or neglecting the rules. Both meanings are there. The word Janasanga refers to giving up the association of pure devotees and keeping company with others, especially materialistic people. Lolyan refers to the fickleness of the mind to accept varieties of false doctrines and the restlessness of the mind to enjoy insignificant material sense enjoyment. So the tendency for bhakti will be destroyed if one wanders like a promiscuous woman, sometimes on the path of karma, sometimes on the path of yoga, sometimes on the path of jnana, and sometimes on the path of bhakti. Prajalpa leads to criticism of devotees, and Lolyan awakens a taste for many temporary uncertain conclusions. Both of these will lead to namaparada. Therefore, one should carefully give them up. So we were just talking about how devotees were discussing about the Ukraine war, taking the side of this government, that government, discussing about so many useless opinions about mundane things. This is called Lolyan. going on Facebook, social media, WhatsApp group, debating and fighting so much for useless opinions. And that leads to namaparad, Gurudev is saying here. And after some time, the devotee will say, oh, I cannot chant, I lost taste, I am too much disturbed by this, by that. It's because of these things. So do not engage. You may have your opinion, but don't start speaking, indiscriminately to each and every person around. Keep your opinion for you and for those who have at least a common sense to talk and to hear different things. This is the safest thing I can say. Protect your bhakti and shut your mouth. Don't speak mundane things. You can study about it, you can read about it, but don't speak about it. You might have some conversation with someone who is more learned in that subject for you to understand deeper. This is okay, but debating, gossiping, this is completely useless. We see this is actually a very emotional thing. The person has to, explode and then cannot stop speaking. When there is a very difficult situation happening, you have to do the opposite. Means you should engage, take shelter in Harinam more. Take more shelter in Harinam, in Vaishnavism, in Harikatha, and don't try to indulge in those things, in those material things. Surrender to Krishna, take shelter in Krishna's lotus feet. He's your maintainer, your protector. Accept whatever is coming and do bhajan. Vancha kalpatarvesha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah.